As of right now, the Longsword is by far the most versatile and refined weapon in the half-sword playtest. It offers some of the best defensive mechanics and offensive capabilities. In this guide, I'm hoping to give you a deeper look into the mechanics and potential of the Longsword. It's no secret that the Longsword is my preferred weapon. I've spent countless hours attempting to master it and have shared a lot of that experience through my YouTube shorts. I believe I'm considered to be one of the more skilled players, so hopefully I can break down my techniques so you can start applying them to your own playstyle. Your movement with a longsword is just as important as knowing how to use it. As talked about in my previous footwork tutorial, the shift key plays an important role in combat. To keep it short, always hold the shift key. If you haven't watched my video on footwork, I recommend you do so after this. But the main point I'll be referencing here is how your lead foot changes depending on which side your guard is on. One aspect that's easy to overlook is understanding the distance or measure between you and your opponent. There isn't really a trick for mastering it. It's something you develop with practice. The more you play, the better you'll get at judging the gap, which can make all the difference in timing your strikes and defenses. There's an easy way to get a general understanding of your reach, and it's very simple. Hit a post or two, and then go from there. Something to keep in mind, there are different longsword archetypes in the half-sword, each with its own weight, length, and behavior. These variations affect reach, speed, and handling. So learning to adjust to each one will help you get the most out of your weapon, no matter which one you're using. My approach to the longsword is mostly defensive. I like giving my opponent a chance to hit me. Sure, I could overwhelm them with a series of fast, chaotic strikes, but I don't really want to do that. It's not that fun for me. One key to mastering defense is understanding the passive parry system and how it works in your favor. I've made a couple of videos dedicated to parrying, so feel free to check those out for more detail, but here's the main takeaway. If the passive parry system is interrupting your swings, it's usually a sign that you shouldn't be swinging. To effectively play defensively with the longsword, you need to understand passive parry and how your lead foot changes depending on which side your guard is on. Together, these are the fundamentals of defending. Through experimentation, I've developed a stance I call neutral position. To get into this neutral stance, move your guard to the left until your lead foot is the right foot. Now move your guard to the right, so the sword is now center with your body. If you go too far to the right, you'll end up triggering the lead foot change. This stance offers optimal movement and the best access to guard positions, providing a solid base for defense and control. For example, a low left attack from the opponent can easily be parried by simply dropping the sword to the left and countering. These are just a few examples of how I use the neutral position. Keep in mind, you don't always have time to reset back to this stance, so getting comfortable fighting with your left foot forward is also a good idea, but typically leaves you with fewer defensive options. Now, let's talk offense. You already know the basics. We can swing from different directions and use thrusts from left and right. But since I'm assuming you've already spent some time in the game, we're gonna go beyond that. I've noticed that a lot of players tend to stick to vertical and horizontal slashes while ignoring diagonal attacks. Diagonals work really well, where the goal is to keep movements small and make each strike accurate and efficient. In my opinion, diagonal strikes should be your primary attack type with most weapons. I've talked about advanced mouse controls in a previous video, which focuses on working within the passive parry zone. If you haven't seen that video, consider watching it. I only mention it here because I apply this concept using it to chain attacks. Chaining attacks revolves around starting a new swing to interrupt the momentum of a previous swing. Typically, this only occurs when you are within the passive parry zone. This can be used for parry and riposte, or on its own as a combo or a chain. For example, this clip from earlier in the video. You can see the procedural animation behave a little bit differently. Now, let's incorporate Alt or the thrust key. To make this easier on myself, I changed the binding on one of my mouse buttons to the Alt key. And while I do use this key for thrusting, I also use it for binding or to slightly modify my swings. I'm still experimenting with it, but you can get some awesome looking attacks and cheeky hits. Even more so when you start chaining, but like I said, I'm still figuring it out. I believe the lessons learned with the Longsword can translate into most of the other weapons in Half-Sword. It serves as a good jumping off point to start experimenting with what you can and can't do with other weapons. Mastering the Longsword means you have the potential to master any other weapon. Like I've said in past videos, these guides aren't step-by-step instructions. The really cool thing about this game is that with enough playtime, everyone's playstyle will be different. If you haven't seen the mod I developed for Half-Sword, you can find it on Nexus Mods under the name OVRDTH's Selector. It lets you pick and save classes so you don't have to keep clicking through icons to find the weapon you want. When I hit 10k subs, I'll drop the update that lets you save sensitivity and load a preset with a keybind so you don't have to alt-tab out of the game. With all that being said, if you enjoyed the video and found something helpful, let me know in the comments and be sure to subscribe for more. I've also started streaming on weekends and sometimes during the evening, so if you see me live, come say hi. As always, thanks for watching.